A war of fire, but decided by endurance. From MI6, a blunt warning: Iran has the upper hand. Dispersed forces, horizontal escalation, and energy leverage have flipped the script. As a war of choice meets an existential fight, one question cuts through: has the balance already shifted beyond Washington's control? As the United States and Iran edge toward potential negotiations, a stark assessment from one of Britain's most experienced intelligence figures is reshaping the narrative of the war. In an interview with The Economist, former MI6 chief Alex Younger offered a blunt conclusion. Despite sustained US and Israeli pressure, Tehran may now hold the strategic advantage.
Iran has the upper hand. I regret reaching that conclusion. I spent most of my career dealing with the violence and brutality of the Revolutionary Guards. I did not shed a tear over the death of Ali Khamenei, but the reality is that the United States underestimated the task and, about 2 weeks ago, lost the initiative to Iran.
Younger has said Iran's battlefield resilience has surpassed expectations, citing early strategic decisions and adaptive military tactics that helped blunt the impact of sustained air campaigns. Younger argued that Tehran's approach to dispersing its military assets significantly enhanced its survivability.
The Iranian regime has shown greater resilience than anyone would have expected, in my view. They made some good decisions as early as last June regarding the dispersal of their military capabilities.
Younger added that Iran's use of what he described as horizontal escalation, launching rockets across a wide geographic range, initially appeared reckless but proved strategically effective.
At the time, I thought it was madness, but in fact, it is a very effective way of imposing a direct cost on the United States, and it has worked reasonably well.
A key turning point, according to Younger, has been Iran's ability to expand the conflict beyond traditional battlefields, particularly through energy leverage and regional escalation.
Iran understood the significance of energy warfare and threatened to close the strait. It turned the conflict into a global one. The Iranians have played their hand quite well, despite being dealt weak cards.
He also drew a sharp contrast between the strategic motivations of Washington and Tehran, warning that asymmetry in stakes is shaping endurance on the battlefield.
Trump made it clear that Iran is in an existential war and that he wants to see it with its back to the wall. The United States, by contrast, is in a war of choice. I think that has given the Iranians more staying power than the United States, and certainly more than its partners. I think that gives them the dominant position.
Younger's assessment challenges prevailing assumptions about Western military superiority, suggesting that resilience, escalation strategy, and control over energy choke points may be redefining the balance of power. As negotiations loom, the battlefield reality appears increasingly complex, where military might alone may not dictate outcomes, and where strategic endurance could ultimately decide the trajectory of the conflict. Iran has flatly denied any ongoing negotiations with the United States, dismissing claims of back-channel diplomacy as fake news, even as Washington signals a temporary pause in military escalation. According to statements on March 23rd, Iran's parliament speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf rejected reports that talks were underway with the US, contradicting earlier assertions by US President Donald Trump.
Iranian people demand complete and remorseful punishment of the aggressors. All Iranian officials stand firmly behind their supreme leader and people until this goal is achieved. No negotiations have been held with the US, and fake news is used to manipulate the financial and oil markets and escape the quagmire in which the US and Israel are trapped.
His statement underscores Tehran's official denial of diplomacy and frames reports of talks as market manipulation amid ongoing conflict. The denial comes hours after President Trump claimed progress toward de-escalation, announcing a temporary halt to planned strikes.
I am pleased to report that the United States of America and the country of Iran have had, over the last 2 days, very good and productive conversations regarding a complete and total resolution of our hostilities in the Middle East. Based on the tenor and tone of these in-depth, detailed, and constructive conversations which will continue throughout the week, I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period, subject to the success of the ongoing meetings and discussions.
This announcement signals a conditional pause in US strikes, tied directly to the outcome of what Washington describes as ongoing discussions. However, Iranian state-linked outlets have reinforced the denial. The IRGC-affiliated Fars news agency reported via Telegram that no talks have taken place and hinted at imminent escalation, citing special events planned for Tel Aviv and regional US allied targets. Separately, Iran's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Esmail Baghaei, quoted by IRNA, reiterated that Tehran's strategic position remains unchanged, particularly regarding the Strait of Hormuz. The conflicting narratives come at a critical juncture in the war, with the Strait of Hormuz, through which roughly 20% of global oil flows, remaining a central pressure point. Markets briefly reacted to Trump's statement, with oil prices easing and equities rising, before Iran's denial injected fresh uncertainty. Since the conflict began on February 28th, casualties have mounted across the region. Iranian sources report over 1,500 killed in US-Israeli strikes, while Lebanon has seen more than 1,000 deaths and mass displacement amid Israeli operations against Hezbollah. Israel has reported 15 fatalities, while 13 US service members have been killed in the theater. With diplomacy publicly denied and threats of new attacks emerging, the trajectory of the conflict remains volatile, heading into the next 24 hours. A sudden and fragile pause in one of the most dangerous flashpoints in the Middle East. After days of escalating threats, US President Donald Trump has announced a temporary halt to strikes on Iran's energy infrastructure. On March 23rd, Trump announced that the United States will refrain from targeting Iranian power plants for 5 days, extending the earlier ultimatum over the Strait of Hormuz. The decision followed what Trump described as productive conversations, though details remain unclear.
I have instructed the Department of War to postpone any and all military strikes against Iranian power plants and energy infrastructure for a 5-day period.
The pause comes after intense warnings from Tehran. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps had made it clear that any strike on its energy grid would trigger retaliation against power and desalination facilities across the region, including in Israel and Gulf countries hosting US bases. Iran is now projecting the development as a strategic outcome of its firm posture. The Iranian embassy in Kabul has claimed that Washington stepped back after Tehran's warnings, framing it as a case of deterrence in action. But Tehran is not buying the narrative of diplomacy. Iran's foreign ministry, cited by Mehr news agency, has pushed back sharply on the framing of Trump's announcement, saying his remarks are designed to bring down energy prices and buy time for his broader military plans. The statement suggests Iran sees the pause not as a genuine olive branch, but as a tactical maneuver driven by economic and strategic calculations. On the question of negotiations, Iran's position is equally firm. The Foreign Ministry acknowledged that there are initiatives underway to reduce tensions, but said the United States must be the one to initiate dialogue because, as Tehran insists, it did not start this war. At the same time, conflicting signals are emerging from within Iran. The Fars news agency, citing a source, says there have been no direct communications with the United States, nor any indirect negotiations through intermediaries, raising serious doubts over the nature of the talks referenced by Washington. Meanwhile, fresh statements carried by Tasnim news agency make clear that Iran is not standing down militarily. An Iranian source said that Iran will continue to respond and broadly defend its territory. On the Strait of Hormuz, the warning was equally blunt.
The Strait of Hormuz will not return to pre-war conditions as long as the psychological warfare continues.
Shipping traffic through the strait has already dropped sharply, and Iran has warned it could escalate further, including disrupting maritime routes across the Gulf. Despite the temporary pause, Trump's own caveat underscores the uncertainty ahead. The suspension is conditional and could be reversed at short notice. For now, the 5-day window offers a narrow opportunity to de-escalate. But with competing narratives, no confirmed diplomatic channel, and Iran openly questioning Washington's motives, the risk of miscalculation remains dangerously high. Tensions in the Middle East are escalating sharply, as Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps issued one of its most direct warnings yet to the United States and its regional allies. In a strongly worded statement, the IRGC rejected claims from Washington that it plans to target desalination facilities across the Gulf. Instead, it framed its posture as defensive, warning that any attack on Iran's critical infrastructure would be met with a proportional response. The IRGC accused the United States of initiating the current escalation, alleging that American strikes have already hit civilian infrastructure, including water supply systems and facilities on Keshem Island. It denied targeting such sites itself, but made clear that its restraint has limits.
Whoever attacks us, then we will attack them in the same way that they attacked us. You hit our hospital, we did not do such a thing. You hit our relief centers, we did not do such a thing. You hit our schools, we did not do such a thing. But if you hit the electricity, we will hit the electricity.
At the core of this warning is a clear doctrine. Iran says any strike on its power grid will trigger retaliation against energy infrastructure across the region. That includes facilities in Israel and in countries supplying electricity to US military bases, as well as economic and industrial assets linked to American interests.
If there is an attack on power plants, Iran will retaliate by targeting the power plants of the occupying regime and the power plants of the regional countries that supply electricity to US bases, as well as the economic, industrial, and energy infrastructures in which Americans have shares.
The statement comes amid reports that President Donald Trump issued a 48-hour ultimatum, warning Iran that its power plants would be obliterated if the Strait of Hormuz is not reopened. In response, Iranian officials have signaled a shift in military posture from defensive to offensive. According to emerging claims, Iran has gone further by identifying specific targets. These reportedly include major desalination and power facilities across Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Jordan. Many of these sites are critical to civilian life, providing water and electricity to millions. The implication is stark. Any escalation could directly impact civilian populations across the Gulf, not just military installations. Meanwhile, developments on the ground suggest the situation may already be deteriorating. Reports indicate widespread power outages in Tehran following heavy strikes on energy infrastructure. Footage from multiple locations shows cities plunged into darkness, with fires and damage reported in areas such as Karaj. In Khorramabad, west of the capital, verified video shows residents searching through rubble after an airstrike destroyed at least one residential building. Local reports suggest casualties, including the death of a child, though full details remain unclear. The United States Central Command has also released imagery of a strike on the Qom turbine engine production plant, a facility it says was used to produce components for Iranian drones and aircraft. The before and after images show extensive damage following the attack. As both sides harden their positions, the risk of a wider regional conflict is growing. Iran's message is unambiguous. It will match escalation with escalation.
We are determined to respond to any threat at the same level that deterrence is established, and we will do so. America does not know our capabilities, and we'll see them on the field.
With the Strait of Hormuz at the center of the crisis and a deadline looming, the next moves from Washington and Tehran could determine whether this confrontation remains contained or spirals into a broader war.